just unscrew the whole thing and squirt it out. And then I've added about a third of the tube, I would say, but I don't measure. And then I add a little bit of water at a time until I get the consistency of brownie honey. And once I have enough, it should be enough to cover 2 little canvases of 20 by 30 centimeters, because I'm going to do two paintings. You'll only see one in this video, because one is going to be an acrylic pour, and the other one using the acrylic pour base dried to do something else. So I'll keep adding until I can feel that it's thin enough. Right now it's thick and solid, but I don't add too much water at a time, because you can end up with it too runny and then you have to keep adding more paint, and it's just a waste of paint. Often I'm not going to come back and use that colour for a long time, if at all, and by then it will have dried out. Even though I try to use jars like a glass jar where the thing can't go bad, I use a plastic jar. First of all, depending on what's been in that jar, there might be some residue of the, say you used an old yogurt container or peanut jar or whatever that, there might be some residue of the oil left in there, so I don't use those. So glass is best, unless you buy special PE containers. You can get hotels. So, but other artists do use them on their jars. So I'm continuing to mix. It's getting better, but I can feel it's still very solid at the bottom, so I'll keep adding. I'm going to have to test it, but I'm going to have to put the phone down. So I'll keep adding until I get to that point where I think I need to look at it. As you can see, it's, oh no, you can barely see now. But the paint covered just the lower 1/8 of this jar when I put it in. But it really is a question of the size of your canvas. And obviously for the colours that you're going to pour out, that you're going to lay down to make your bloom or whatever you're going to make, you need less paint than the base paint, which has got to cover your whole canvas, and a lot of which will either run off or blow off. But you do need to first get your canvas well covered. But I've learned that really you can put down a lot less. You just put down some in the center, tilt it from side to side, up and down, back and forth, until it's almost covered, and then you can either use a spatula, or eventually I use a hairdryer to blow it out evenly to make sure the sides are covered. You just have to do it very gently, so it doesn't splatter all over, depending on the strength of your hairdryer. Mine is 2,000 watts, and that's way too strong. I needed 1,000 watt hairdryer is ideal. When I was looking for a new hairdryer, I couldn't find one of that wattage, and anyway, I'm not going to specially buy one just for this. What you can do is you can tape the sides of the hairdryer, and I'll show you that in my next part of my video. So the second colour I want to use is blue, and I'd like to use ultramarine blue, but it's transparent, and I'm not sure it's going to show on the black very well. So I'm using this cobalt blue, which is semi-transparent. You can see the square there is divided into a dark shaded black area and a light shade, that's semi-transparent. The lamp black, you can see, if you can, yeah, it's completely black, so that means it's opaque. And then I have this Liquitex Brilliant Blue, which is also has a black square, which means that it is opaque. So I'm mixing these two colors just because I want to make the blue a bit more opaque. Don't really want to use this color blue, but anyway, I've probably got more paint in there than I really need. I'm just going to add, maybe I'll just mix those two together first before I add the water. And I'm going to be painting, blowing out painting, and turning it into some peacocks. I already have the green from my last painting. I don't need much colour. It's a very tiny painting, 20 by 30. and probably won't even use more than a few drops. But it looks a bit too runny now. I have to keep stirring, so I may need to add some more paint since I put too much water in. Or I just need to stir it. So I'll bring you back once I've done that. So here I have my old hairdryer, and I've taped the side to make sure it doesn't fly off because it used to do that. And then I've taped the front to make a more narrow opening so as to not blow the paint all over so strongly. And that does work, but the tape does heat up a bit, and then there's pressure, and then it might fly off. So you've got to just do it very gently in short bursts. And this hairdryer doesn't have a cold setting, so that I also don't like. So anyway, it is working, surprisingly, after all this time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pour the black paint on to the canvas. Oh, why is it looking a little thick now? I'm not going to put too much on. And then tilt it slowly in all directions as much as possible to get as much coverage as I can, because you really don't need a thick layer. I don't think I'm going to use the hairdryer to blow the paint out. I'll probably have to use a straw because it's such a delicate little painting that I want to make, the peacock. Although the way I'm doing it, I did blow out the colours in this way before, and it made such a lovely design that I might take the chance. I don't know. Because the idea is I'm going to paint away the black afterwards once it's dry. I mean, it's not going to blow out exactly like a peacock. It's feathers. But anyway, I need to spread the rest with a spatula. So I'll bring you back once I've done. There wasn't enough black, and so I wasn't getting proper coverage. Once I used my old hairdryer, because I'd narrowed the opening, I was getting sort of uneven patches, so I had to put more paint on, and then I used my proper hairdryer, and now I have a nice covering. So the first part of the peacock, I've put down a puddle of blue and a puddle of green, and I'm going to just blow this with a straw, and then I will do the tail. I'm going to make stripes of colour, and I'll blow that out with the hairdryer and hope that won't be a disaster. So that's more or less what I want. It's not exactly, because I'm going to have to blow a bit more, but I'm getting dizzy, I'm going to fall over. So I'm going to let that dry for a few seconds, and then if it's pooling, I'll have to blow some more. So this is blowing out intentionally, specifically to make this design of the peacock, but obviously it's not going to look anything like a peacock by the time I finish blowing. I'm going to have to do some sculpting, and I'm going to do that by leaving it to dry and then painting away the parts that I don't like with black paint. And so that should be not too difficult, because it will be more or less in the shape that I want it. I won't be using the back of a paintbrush to design where I want it to go. I'll see how it blows out, but for the most part I'll just leave it as it blows out, and then I'll come back with a paintbrush once it's dry and paint the shape of the peacock. And I will need to add white for the centers of the feathers, but I think more or less this is how it's it's more or less how I want it to be. On a bigger canvas it might be easier. This is a very tiny canvas, so I am a bit restricted, but I'm going to use my old hairdryer now and see what happens. And she's moving, but not very much. Hairdryer wasn't moving the paint at all, so I had to remove the tape. I think the opening was just too narrow, and of course that also didn't help, so I had to put it on a higher number, and that just blows it all over the place. So you really do need the right tool, but it doesn't matter. I mean, I can always compromise. So I've got a very thin paintbrush. I'm just using the back of it. It's a bit too thick there. Anyway, so that's what I'll do, and I'll see if it will last.